He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, my friends. This is Mark Levin. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. First of all, I want to wish the Weber family, well, I want to give them my prayers. George Weber was a colleague at WABC. We weren't that close, but I knew the man well enough to say hello to him and talk to him from time to time, and he was murdered in his apartment the other night, stabbed to death. That's all I know, and it's a horrible way to go. And he was 47 years old, and he was a consummate newsman, and had been working, I think, lately with the ABC radio network. So we wish his family all the best. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the 4 police officers in Oakland, California. 3 of them murdered outright. 1 of them is brain dead from this piece of absolute bottom-of-the-shoe excrement parolee who went on a rampage and shot these men dead before he was shot dead. If you see an officer today, why don't you say thank you? Give him a little salute, tip of the hat, shake of the hand, because they're there on the front lines with all kinds of human debris. And I don't know where we'd be without them. I have never been to an event like that event on Saturday at Book Review on Long Island. I can't thank you enough, you folks who showed up there. I'm told there was around 6,000. I want you to know that we ordered 1,200 books. I've never signed more than 900 books at any sitting, and that was a lot. We didn't have enough books. I sat for 6 hours without taking a single break because I wanted to meet everybody I possibly could. And here's the weird thing about it, and I don't do a lot of these. There are people outside, I'm told, and it's cold, so we're told, or management is told, move the line along. But when people meet you, you can't just say, sign hi, sign hi. You want to say hello. And if they want to shoot a quick photo, you want to be able to do that. And if they want to, pass some pleasantries, you want to be able to do that. So it is a tough balancing act. Because on the one hand, people are waiting, and they're going to wait for hours. And if I take too much time, they're going to wait for many, many more hours. On the other hand, when they see you face to face, they want a little time with you. So I did the best I could, and I will tell you that everybody was so pleasant and kind. And I said on Sean's show earlier today, there isn't going to be a backlash against Barack Obama and the statists. There is one. You're witnessing it. Our people are fired up, and I wish the election were tomorrow for these congressional seats. And I think the more this goes on, the more people are going to do what they need to do. Talk to one another. Communicate through blogging or group settings. Things are going to start to happen in a very positive way for this country, I believe. We still have to muscle through the next 2 years because they're doing everything they can to destroy our beloved nation in 7 weeks' time. But I just wanted you folks to know who came out of your homes on a Saturday, awful lot of young people too, to come see us, to get the signature, how appreciative I am. Please know how blessed I know I am. And it was an absolute honor to meet each and every one of you. And when I was done signing, I went downstairs. Whoever was left, I wanted to shake their hands too. There's one of me and 6,000 people. And Curtis Sliwa was terrific, and Sean Hannity, and Bernard from the Imus Show, and Mark Simone. I'm very blessed with these guys. So thank you again. We appreciate it. And on Saturday, this Saturday, we'll be at Tyson's Corner Mall in Vienna, Virginia at Barnes & Noble at 11 a.m. And they have ordered 1,800 books. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I can't sign more than 1,800 books without my hand falling off. So they ordered 1,800 books. So I don't think we'll run out. You may want to come around 9. I should probably whisper that. The line will start forming relatively early. But I'll do everything I can, again, to make it run as smoothly as we can. Tyson's Corner Mall, this Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, Vienna, Virginia, at Barnes & Noble. We're ready to see you, and I can't wait. And that's probably going to end my massive book tour, too. We'll see, but that's my intention. Now, folks, let me be honest with you. This book, Liberty and Tyranny, A Conservative Manifesto, I wrote this because of you. I wrote this for you. I wrote this because of all the calls I received, even before Obama was elected president. Concerned about Pelosi and Reid, concerned about these massive entitlements. What are we conservatives going to do? And then I watched as people were fighting over what is conservatism, who's the true conservative, who leads conservatism. And so I was going to write this book a year ago. But instead I wrote Rescuing Sprite first, because in my heart that's what I felt I needed to do. And I put this project off. I wasn't exactly sure how to approach this, to be honest with you. I know some people write books, they do a slapdash, they do quick talking poem, boom, 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 and it's very superficial. And if I had done that, I'd still sell hundreds of thousands of books. I would. Life would have been easier. I could have written it in 3 months, and it'd be over already. But that's not what I did. I decided to search my soul, my experiences, American history, world philosophy, and start from the beginning. And I asked myself some basic questions, the same questions you ask yourself, and if you don't, you still need to prove to the other side when you battle them. What is conservatism? And why am I a conservative? And if I see things so clearly about liberty, faith, national security, immigration, the environment, and so forth, why don't other people see it the same way? You don't have to be a rocket scientist. This is a matter of human experience and logic. The country wasn't born yesterday. Human history didn't start yesterday. So I got to thinking, I've got to figure out how to put my arms around all this, keep it relatively concise, because I don't want to write a complicated textbook, put it in plain English, and yet keep it at a level that requires people to think in order to understand. Because if you think in order to understand, then you will embrace a viewpoint, and you will be confident in that viewpoint. And then I said, now how am I going to apply this book to radio without totally killing my ratings and boring all the PDs and GMs out there? Well, the fact of the matter is, we hold, in essence, I was thinking about this, a national classroom every day on this show. Well, we have fun and all the rest, and we're going to continue to do that. I'm not changing this show at all. Why would I change a number one show? Let the backbenchers change their shows. But this week, we're going to have fun and do it a little differently. We're going to do something that's never been done in talk radio to my knowledge. We're going to have this primer that took me 16 months to write. And by the way, not that it took, part of the reason it took me 16 months is because after my show, I go to my office and work on it, and work on it on the weekends. I'm not a full-time author. But we're going to really get into this stuff. We're not going to get into it because I wrote a book. It's because I wrote a book to get into this stuff. so that you'd have a primer. This is a class, in essence, about your country, its founding, its principles, the conservative philosophy. It's a class about your past and your future, about human behavior, and about the great, difficult, and dire challenges we face. And we will take our time each day this week, and I'll use whatever intelligence and information and talent I've been able to acquire over the last 35 years and synthesized in this book, Liberty and Tyranny. Then I'll present it and we'll discuss it. If we're going to take back our country, we need to start with the basics and at the grassroots. So that's why I will treat this in some respects as a national classroom. You don't have to go to adult classes or anything like that. We'll handle it right here. We'll learn more together from what I've gathered, from what I've known, and what you've known and gathered over the years than any one of these academic settings will ever show. We'll do it right here. We'll build our case, and we'll build our confidence. Now, I'm here for 1 hour on this show today, and the great talk show icon Bob Grant will be filling in for the last 2 hours, but I will be here the rest of the week, every hour, at which time we will advance this cause. And that's how I view it, advancing the cause. And I'm going to start right now. Now, I'm not going to read you the whole book. That would kind of be boring. That would kind of defeat the purpose. But there are some excerpts from which we can jump off. And I'm not going to do every chapter right away either. We're going to take our time and work through this. I've talked about some of this in some ways, but I want to do it in a way that's comprehensive. Now, when I talk about a civil society, what am I talking about? I'm talking about ordered liberty. Ordered liberty. I didn't invent these phrases, but ordered liberty is the civil society. And you'll hear them used interchangeably out there by different people. Ordered liberty, social contract. I like the civil society phrase. Now, what are the conditions of this civil society that we have and that we want? In the civil society, this is key to understanding everything. The individual is recognized and accepted as more than an abstract statistic or faceless member of some group. He is a unique spiritual being with a soul and a conscience. He is free to discover his own potential and pursue his own legitimate interests, tempered, however, by a moral order that has its foundation in faith and guides his life and all human life through the prudent exercise of judgment. Hey, Mark, I don't believe all those things. You know what? You got to listen all week. It's going to be one step to the next, as Sean said, and I appreciate what he said. I lay this case out like a prosecutor. I lay out the philosophy and the history and then go for the specifics. And by the way, I want to thank Sean Hannity, a mentor of mine who does nothing but show loyalty. Rush Limbaugh, so many others, I can't name them all. Let's get back. All right, moral order. Foundation is faith. Prudent exercise of judgment. As such, the individual in the civil... You don't have to memorize this, just get a feel for it. The individual in the civil society strives, imperfectly, to be virtuous. That is, restrained, ethical, and honorable. He rejects the relativism that blurs the lines between good and bad, right and wrong, just and unjust, and means and ends. Now, the statist does those things. The civil society, in the civil society, the individual has a duty to respect the unalienable rights of others and the values, customs, and traditions, tried and tested over time and passed from one generation to the next, that establishes society's cultural identity. He is responsible for attending to his own well-being and that of his family, and he has a duty as a citizen to contribute voluntarily to the welfare of his community through good works. In the civil society, private property and liberty are inseparable. The individual's right to live freely and safely and pursue happiness includes the right to acquire and possess property. Property is, after all, the value of your labor, the consequence of your labor. And labor is the time you spent out of your life working. In the civil society, we have a rule of law that is just and predictable. Look at what Congress is doing. They're utterly out of control. And when we come back, I'll tell you a little bit about the statist and who the statist is.
Mark Levin.
By the way, sorry, a little footnote. I want to thank WABC for their wonderful support on Saturday. And I want to thank WMAL, which is hosting next Saturday's book signing. Again, it's Barnes & Noble, Saturday, 11 a.m., Tyson's Corner this Saturday, Vienna, Virginia. I said we've ordered 1,800 books. They'll have them, as opposed to the 1,200 I signed. How do I sign with my left hand? Can anybody teach me how to do that? Or maybe I can just, well, I better not use a stamp. Then people won't show up. Just kidding. Just kidding. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin, America's Paul Revere. Call him now at 877-381-3811.
You ready for a little more? We're just going to do this in little doses, so we won't become overwhelming and monotonous. Just a little piece at a time. The Federalist Papers. Now, the Federalist Papers were written by John Jay and Hamilton and Madison to persuade the states to ratify the Constitution. There is also the Anti-Federalist Papers, some of which are quite good, as a matter of fact. But the Federalist Papers are very, very important because, as Madison is often considered the father of the Constitution because of his aggressive involvement in helping draft it and his involvement in negotiations. You know, his take on it, Hamilton, John Jay, it's very important. Federalist 51. Just a couple sentences. Listen to this, how profound it is. What is government itself, writes Madison, but the greatest of all reflections on human nature? If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to be governed men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. In framing a government which is to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this, and here's the point. You must first enable the government to control the governed, and in the next place oblige it to control itself. To control the governed and control itself. That, ladies and gentlemen, was the Constitution of the United States. Now look at how to control the government is. Now what's the statist? For the statist, liberty is not a blessing but the enemy. It's not possible to achieve utopia if individuals are free to go their own way. The individual must be dehumanized and his nature delegitimized. Through persuasion, deception, and coercion, the individual must be subordinated to the state. He must abandon his own ambitions for the ambitions of the state. He must become reliant on and fearful of the state. His first duty must be to the state, not family, community, and faith, all of which have the potential of threatening the state. And once dispirited, the individual can be molded by the state. Now, you know of circumstances all over the place like this. First and foremost, local, state, and federal governments want money from you. They want your property. If you own a home, and maybe you can make the mortgage payment and the interest with it, but not pay your property taxes, you lose your home. If you're having trouble paying your federal income taxes and can't work out some kind of schedule, you lose everything. The government is first. You're subordinated to it. Now, the statist utopia can take many forms and has throughout human history, including monarchism, feudalism, militarism, fascism, communism, National Socialism, and Economic Socialism. They're all of the same species, although different degrees. Tyranny. The primary principle around which the status organizes can be summed up in a single word, equality, and I discussed this once before. But it's got to be underscored. Equality, as understood by the founders, is the natural right of every individual to live freely under self-government, to acquire and retain the property he creates through his own labor, and to be treated impartially before a just law. That's equality. Equality should not be confused with perfection, because man is imperfect, making his application of equality, even in the most just society, imperfect. Okay? Otherwise, inequality is the natural state of man in the sense that each individual is born unique in all his human characteristics. So equality and inequality, properly understood, are both essential to liberty. But for the statist, he misuses equality to pursue uniform economic and social outcomes. He must continuously enhance his power at the expense of self-government and violate the individual's property rights at the expense of individual liberty. For he believes that he can tame man's nature, his natural state, and man's perfection can therefore be achieved in utopia. The statist must claim the power to make that which is unequal equal and that which is imperfect perfect. This is the hope the statist offers. It is a false hope. He knows it, but he pursues it anyway. If only the individual surrenders himself to the all-powerful state, only then can the impossible be made possible. And we heard Barack Obama say this himself. Wesleyan University graduating class, 2008, quote, "Our individual salvation depends on collective salvation." But salvation is not government's to give. It's not a grant to mankind from mankind. And under the wrong conditions and in the wrong hands, this deviant view is a powerful tool against humanity. It is the tool of totalitarianism. The difficulty, if not impossibility, is in containing the soft tyranny, so it does not metastasize into a more absolute tyranny, since the diminished and vanquished civil society is the only antidote to it. Now, here's the problem. The statist cannot divine the limits of government power, and he has no intention of doing it. When you throw off the Constitution, you don't have any more definitions on government. His power depends on rejecting constitutional limits. The only limits on power are the limits he places on himself. And over time, the limits evaporate. Over time, you saw Congress last week. You saw Congress last week in an unbelievable frenzy, in a mob mentality, going after citizens of this country who violated no law, violated no ethics rules either. Some of them earned $1 a year in exchange for bonuses. I'm no special pleader for these folks. My fear is not them, however. It's the power of a Congress run mad. Now, you cannot separate liberty from private property, the individual from an underlying transcendent moral order, like the Golden Rule, an unalienable right of life and liberty under natural law. Because these rights are not conferred on man by man. And I've talked about this before, too. Frederick Hayek, he saw the change. He saw what the statist was up to with their manipulation of the word freedom. Freedom, historically, has meant freedom from coercion. That is, to be free to do that which you want legitimately as long as you're not committing a crime or doing something immoral. But the status uses freedom to mean freedom from want. You have the right to this, the right to that, the right to your neighbor's cow, the right to this one's income, the right to this. In other words, freedom, as proposed by the statist, is redistribution. Freedom is said to equate with socialism and other forms of tyranny. When I started this book, well into it, I happened upon a great quote by Abraham Lincoln. A great quote, so great in my view that I put it on the back of the book. In a little-known speech in 1864. Listen to this. He said, "We all declare for liberty. But in using the same word, we do not all mean the same thing. With some, the word liberty may mean for each man to do as he pleases with himself and the product of his labor. While with others, the same word may mean for some men to do as they please with other men and the product of other men's labor. Here are two not only different but incompatible things called by the same name, liberty. And it follows that each of the things is, by the respective parties, called by two different and incompatible names, liberty and tyranny." The slave owners were saying that it's a matter of liberty and property rights to enslave another man. Those who were fighting against them were saying that it's a matter of liberty to stop a man from enslaving another man. But you and I know what liberty is, which was liberty and which was tyranny. Now, apart from outright slavery, when the federal government, ladies and gentlemen, compels you to pay what will soon be 50 to 60% of your income, for whatever the purpose, 50 to 60% of your income, what is that? Or you go to federal prison. I want to explain what I mean by this word income. I describe it elsewhere in the book. Let me do it here. You know what your income is? That income of yours, the assets you get as a result of that, the private property you own, is your life. No, I don't mean your spiritual life and your being. No, what I mean is when you go to work every day, you commit a certain percentage of the infinite time you have on the face of this earth to working, to making a living, to acquiring things. And when somebody steps in and uses the force of government and says, you have too much, even if you got that private property, whether it be money or a home or whatever, through legitimate means, through hard work or smart work or both, that means the time that you worked belongs to the person who's taking your property. It is, in fact, a form of slavery because you're not working for yourself anymore. You're not even working for the common good. If somebody wants to redistribute wealth, you're working for a status ideologue. You're not working for anything that has a truly good purpose. Certainly not yourself. And then they torment you over it. They persecute you over it. They attack you as having done something wrong. As if they have a moral imperative, when it is you who has a moral imperative to take care of yourself and your family. That's your responsibility. And that doesn't mean earning enough to get by. It means earning as much as you want. And in doing that, you contribute to the overall society. What do you do with your money? You walk around with it in your pockets? Not all of it. You invest it. You spend it. You save it. You create an economy. And when millions and millions of us do it, you create a robust economy, the greatest economy on the face of the earth. So when somebody overtaxes you for illegitimate governmental purposes like redistributing wealth, I want to make things a little bit more even. They are stealing your liberty. Some of you have jobs you don't even like. You go to those jobs, you make your living, and you go home and you take care of your family only to hear some government creep tell you that you earn too much or somebody else needs to have some of your money. Meanwhile, look at what they do with it. All the waste, fraud, and abuse. So, I hope some of this makes sense. I think the lecture part of the day is over. Let's take a couple of calls and see what's going on out there. What's cooking? I say lecture, not meaning lecture, but you'll learn more from what I'm saying and from this book than you can possibly learn from the agenda leftist-driven eggheads who know less than I do and have tenure. Let us go to Patricia, Long Island, New York, WABC. Go.
Hi, Mark. We were there on Saturday. I brought my 10 and 13-year-old children and my husband, and we were so grateful, first of all, to meet you and Sean and Curtis, and also to see the people, because, honestly, you feel isolated out here. We have lovely Steve Israel, who, along with Rangel, sponsored that terrible bill last week. And so I thought I'll call Jill Brand and see if she'll be responsive and at least hear that the constituents don't want the Senate to do this. And I called. They were antagonistic. They couldn't care less. They were arrogant. And then I came to your event, and it was such an uplift. And I have to tell you, we walked away like this.
Well, we got a break. It's a hard break, and it was a pleasure to see you. God bless you.
Mark Levin. This is the Mark Levin Show, where the Reagan Coalition meets every day.
By the way, have you ever observed that these statists, leftist types, are malcontents? Have you ever noticed that? Have you noticed how miserable they are? How put out they always are? How some damn grievance or some right of theirs they claim has been violated? You ever notice that? The answer is always the same. To steal something from you, to take from somebody else. There's a real mentality issue there, I think. We'll be right back. All right, let's go to Joe, Indianapolis, the great WFDM. Go.
Hey, Mark, first of all, thanks and God bless you. I was driving home and was listening to Mr. Handy's show, heard you on there, and I had a book reserved for tomorrow, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go over to the bookstore on the way home, and I got the guy to dig one out of the back.
That's great.
It was coming out on the car, and, I'm reading it right there at the beginning, and, it hit me right away, and you just figure out, it made me realize that, sometimes you question conservatism and the founders because you're like, it can't be as time-tested as it is, and it just is because they were God-inspired when they do it.
Joe,
that's the only thing I can come to.
This is the point, my brother. I want our folks to be inspired and confident, and only then will we be able to take the message to the next level. And I'm going to work through this. We're all going to work through this. And this is the primer, at least for some people who are interested, because you should be confident about your views. We are on the right side of history. We stand for the same principles our founding fathers did. The other side does not. They stand for something else. They stand for something that is foreign to this country, that is alien to human nature. And we've got to start talking about these principles and explaining it. We shouldn't crush individuals. We shouldn't crush individual pursuits. We shouldn't crush people who have a positive view of this nation, who are making the nation work, the economy work, who are providing us with our food and transporting it and cooking it, and cleaning our clothes and making this society work. These are the people we want to encourage. These are the people we want on our side. Not the drones and the losers who are constantly grieving over some slight because they are losers. Because they don't know how to operate in a free society. And because they don't know how to operate in a free society, we should make it a different kind of society? I say the hell with that. We don't mind putting out a helping hand, giving some of our income to help people who are less fortunate. But if you're a loser who's sitting on your ass, you deserve nothing. Let alone dragging down our entire society to accommodate what you want. Go out there and work like the rest of us. Contribute to society. Be a positive citizen, not a drone. That's the point. Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Grant is next. 2 great hours from the icon himself. I'll be here tomorrow. Now I'm more fired up than ever. 9 p.m. tonight Eastern, The Hannity Show. I'll be there, and my head will be polished. This is Mark Levin.